More than one-third of young people are spending much higher proportions of their income.
Rents are rising nationwide.
Rents across our capital cities are rising at
now
this
even rentals are more and more out of reach for many people in the GTA.
If you're in the market for a rental property, you may have noticed that prices seem to be rising out of control. The increasing price of housing, both to purchase and rent, is potentially the most serious issue we face today. Aside from making life more expensive, high costs of housing are known to push more people into homelessness, major drag on economic growth, and is one of the largest factors behind the recent increase in inequality. But why is this happening? In this video, we'll explore some of the factors contributing to the increase in rental prices. The problem can mostly be traced back to one root issue: supply constraints. This can be easily seen here, showing that many of America's most expensive cities build comically little housing as prices soar. So what's the reason for insufficient supply? It basically goes like this: local governments enact a maze of rules that make it illegal, or at least very difficult, to build large developments in nearly the entire city. Even if you do find a place to build, you face a permitting process that often takes years. And you risk having the development rejected anyways for a wide variety of arbitrary reasons. These restrictions include, but are not limited to, zoning, which commonly restricts most residential land to only single-family homes, and only allows high-density buildings on a tiny percentage of land, height restrictions, minimum lot sizes, impact fees, setback requirements, permitting delays, and parking requirements. All of these requirements either prevent the construction of additional housing or increase the cost. Each municipality has their own unique set of rules, but the effect is largely the same: limited housing supply. The effect of these land use controls on the price of housing is very well documented in economics. Researchers have shown that strict land use controls make it riskier, more difficult, and more expensive to build housing, ultimately pushing the price of housing far above the cost of construction in the highest demand markets. In many cities, current housing is below optimal density levels, which is the direct result of local land use controls. And we have lots of evidence that building more units increases affordability. Additionally, land use regulations increase segregation, which contributes to racial inequalities and increases GHG emissions due to lower density housing. And while America does have a substantial housing shortage at the national level, the most acute shortages exist at the local level. We don't need more homes in rural Mississippi, we need housing in major, booming urban centers. So how do we fix the problem? This article lay out solutions in more detail, but broadly, municipal governments must reduce and eliminate regulatory roadblocks to building housing supply. The end goal is to allow more housing to be built faster. But what about other factors that affect housing? Generally, they play a much more limited role in the housing market and are minimized further by correcting supply constraints. In a well-functioning housing market, additional demand has little long-term effect on the price of housing since more units can be built at the prevailing price. What about foreign buyers? Evidence on the effect of foreign buyers and policies aimed at curbing them is mixed here, or some of the better research on the topic. It is plausible that foreign buyer taxes or bans might slow price growth. However, without addressing the supply constraints, these policies won't achieve anywhere near what is needed. What about all those houses sitting empty? Vacancy rates are already quite low in most places struggling with affordability. Long-term vacancies are especially rare and concentrated in places with weak demand where housing affordability is not a major issue. While evidence does suggest that vacancy taxes can push some units back onto the market, the impact on housing supply is quite small since few units are vacant to begin with and most vacancies are for legitimate reasons: renovations, gaps between tenants, foreclosure, etc. What about rich people buying multiple homes? Only 5% of total housing units are secondary homes, and this number includes simultaneous ownership during moves, homes currently under construction by the owner, and homes undergoing renovations or other work. But what about BlackRock and private equity companies buying single-family homes? They're a minuscule percentage of the market, and since they rent units out, it doesn't reduce supply. But what if developers build luxury housing instead of affordable housing? Turns out, it doesn't actually matter much. Even high-end housing substantially helps low and middle-income people through the substitution effect. The most important thing, by far, is that we just build something.